and welcome to Zoom with Czarny. I'm Dustin Czarny, Democratic Elections Commissioner. Today on my interview show, I am talking to Assemblyman Al Stirpe. He's the representative for the 127th election or Assembly District, which is Clay, Cicero, Manlius, and then over into Cazenovia. He's been in that seat since 2008. And and with a 2-year break, but we talked about that in our interview. So he's a great representative, always a wonderful interview, and so please stay tuned for that. As we head into the weekend, we are on vice presidential watch, and I think we will probably start to get some news Sunday or Monday about the vice president the vice presidential nominee that Kamala Harris is going to nominate. And as that is going on, the virtual DNC convention is happening right now. You may see this on Twitter, but a lot of people are actually voting to make her the official nominee on Tuesday the 7th. She will be the official nominee. So, keep that in mind, that this is happening as we speak. Over the weekend, it's kind of funny. We see all these vice presidential candidates announce that they're canceling their plans for the weekend as they all sit by the phone waiting for that call. But I think that's strategic by the Harris campaign. She probably told everybody to announce that they're canceling their plans. So the person that she's chosen or may have already chosen or is leaning towards won't be the only one canceling their plans and thus tip out who the nominee is. It's quite possible she hasn't made a choice yet at all. I'm sure she's making a choice this weekend. It's possible that they'll be traveling to speak with her. The 6 nominees that are out there are Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. And by the way, I'm listing these in no personal order. Senator Mark Kelly in Arizona, Governors Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, J.B. Pritzker from Illinois, Tim Walz from Minnesota, and Andy Beshear from Kentucky, and Secretary Pete Buttigieg, the Transportation Secretary under Joe Biden, former mayor of Indiana. So those seem to be the rumored 6 on the short list. And very shortly, we'll get a nominee. And just a quick note on that, I don't care who she picks. I mean, I obviously have a favorite, which I don't think I'm necessarily going to share, because all 6 of these people are incredibly well qualified. We have an embarrassment of riches on the bench, and that's including people like Meg Whitmer and Roy Cooper, North Carolina, Michigan, that have taken themselves out of the running this time. We have a remarkable bench on our side to continue to run for national office, and it's going to be a fun next 5 to 10 years, I think, for the Democratic Party. So that's all I got for you right now. Please stay tuned for my interview with Al Stirpe, Assembly member for the 127th election or Assembly District. Bye-bye. And we're back, and I'm so happy to have my good friend, Assemblyman Al Stirpe. He's been representing the 127th election district for many terms now, and that's right now the 127th Assembly is Clay, Cicero, Manlius, and going into Cazenovia in Madison County. But the core of the Assembly District has remained the same for many years. Al, thanks so much for coming back on Zoom with Czarny.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to come and have a little talk, see what's going on.
Well, you've been on here many times, but there's always new people that are just getting engaged, especially in a presidential year, who may not know who you are and what your background is. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got your start in politics?
Wow. Okay. Well, originally I came to Syracuse in 1981 to go work for General Electric, like lots of other people. And it was in 1987, after working there for a little over 6 years, myself and a bunch of my functional managers in the operation I was in bought the operation from GE, and we called it CID Technologies, and ran that for 7 or so years. Sold it to our biggest customer, Thermo Electron out of Boston, who makes atomic spectrometers, and our cameras were the eyes for the atomic spectrometer. And then after that, I left that and went on and created Cube Connections, which was an enterprise resource planning software package for small to mid-sized manufacturers. And, you know, one thing led to another. I had always been interested in politics. My father was always interested in politics, but I had been sort of relegated to reading everything and sending checks to people who were running for politics. Finally, I was working for a software company out of Santa Clara, California, and the guy who hired me, who I had a good relationship with, left. The next thing I know, I hear from people back in Santa Clara that there's people going through the books, they're doing due diligence to buy the company. And I said, well, that's enough of that. And I looked for something that was a little closer to home. And after a few failed attempts at getting some attention from like people in the Chamber of Commerce and the Manufacturers Association of Central New York, I saw that Jeff Brown was leaving the assembly. He was going to run for the Senate against Dave Valesky. So there'd be an open seat. And I said, hey, why not? You know, I've always been interested in this stuff. And I sort of built a campaign around 3 things, my 3 E's: economic development, education, and the environment. And those are the things I think I've focused on throughout my 16 years now. That's you were very nice. You said I've been there a long time. It's like, yeah, he's really old and he's got gray hair and everything.
Well, I'm getting it too, so it's okay. 16 years ago, I was a young pup well, yeah, somewhat young pup in Democratic politics. But I remember when you came on the scene and you won a primary. You were kind of an insurgent candidate and won a primary and then won election. But then you ran into the Republican wave and of 2014, right? And
no, 2010. It was
2010. That Republican wave.
Yeah, that was the what did you call it? The bus that came through the city and everything.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Not the Contract on America. That was
no, it was you know, we get them every 10 years basically, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was a
comeback story, because you lost, you didn't put your head down, you came back 2 years later and won, and have won, you know, sizably every year. You've been challenged with some really well-funded challengers, but you've won, and your district has always been a Republican district. It's been up until recently, and it was actually right before redistricting. Your district was plurality Republican, and then like about 6 years ago, the demographics of Onondaga County had changed so much that you became plurality Democrat, and then in redistricting even more so. What's it like, representing a diverse district like that, where it's you're not a shoo-in for re-election every year?
No. It's, you know, it is a lot of work. I mean, I'll put it that way, because up until 2017, every town official, every county ledge official, every other state official and congressional official in my district was a Republican. I was the only Democrat. And that, you know, that went on for quite a while. And in order to win in that kind of situation, you sacrifice a lot of your life, because you have to spend a lot of time out in the district. You have to help as many people as possible. You have to treat everybody the same. whether they're Democrats or Republicans, when they call in for help, you've got to be ready to go ahead and help them. And I think after a while, people realized I wasn't really ideological. I was more of a, I guess, common sense person. I had principles that I um, lived by, but I didn't have ideology that would cause me, to blow up the planet no matter what, because I didn't get my way, which is unfortunately what we're stuck in right now. And, it's just hasn't helped anything. We've tried to move forward all the time with at least one hand tied behind our back. And if we could get everybody moving in the same direction, things would be so much better. But that being said, our country's doing well, probably better than any other country in the world. The state has been surprising in its resilience and the amount of economic development that takes place here. Our region is blessed right now after 30 years of struggling and fighting and trying to come up with some good strategies for economic development. We landed, Micron because of the efforts of the federal government, the efforts of the state government, and the efforts of the county government. We all worked together and we got it done. And that's, I think, the biggest message you give to anybody when it comes to politics. You can get amazing things done if everybody works together.
Yeah, so that's I'm glad you mentioned the Micron thing, because you do represent the Micron era, and too many people focus on just Schumer, too many people focus on just McMahon, or Mannion or yourself, but it was really all of you working together on this, and of course Governor Hochul and President Biden as well.
Right.
But that's going to be something that's going to transform our region. It's something that we're all excited for, and and that's going to happen in your backyard. So
Yep.
what's the latest on that, and what are your what are your hopes in the next few years that's going to mean for Central New York?
Well, there's a lot of issues that come with landing the 800-pound gorilla. It's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built and upsized. It's not just roads and bridges, it's water, sewage treatment, it's everything. I even had Okra come to me and say, we need to build a whole new Lake Creek collection site. We bought some additional land and everything, but we need, whatever, $39 million. And it's just because of Micron and all the other companies, plus all the people that are going to move here. So, our biggest issue currently is housing. We've had an issue with housing prior to Micron, and this has exacerbated the whole situation. There are proposals on the books for up to 9,000 housing units in Onondaga County and the surrounding, lower Oswego, a little bit of Madison, some of Cayuga. But a lot of people have not pulled the trigger yet. Interest rates are high for developers. It's been very difficult, but I think people recognize we're going to have to build housing. And I'm sure we're going to build a lot of market rate housing here in this area. That's not going to be a problem. The problem is building affordable housing. And fortunately, in this year's budget, we came up with some programs, and those are, targeted specifically for affordable housing. And if you provide 25% affordable housing in your project, you're going to get, I think it's 25 years of relief on a pilot. So it's like 4% a year. It's going to increase in taxes. If you build 100% affordable housing, it's permanent. You get a zero tax, and it's a big deal. But there are some communities who are it's going to be easy to do it in. Some communities are not going to be as excited about it. They like to keep the place the way it is. And I mean, I think from a statewide situation, those places with really high wealth, they don't need all these incentives. They got money. They want their life the way they want it, so probably won't change. But I think we're going to do, great things here. And I think that's the hardest part is going to be the next 3 or 4 years doing a lot of the infrastructure. And then after that, it's, button your chin strap. They're all going to be coming.
And I can't wait to register them all to vote. So
There you go.
But that being said, you kind of talked about it a little bit with the budget. Obviously, session is over. This is your 16th year in Albany, 16th session, and each of the last 2 sessions we've had late budgets, which have caused some problems, I think, in getting some bills out. But let's talk about some of the successes this last session, and then we'll go into some of the stuff that maybe got left on the table that you're hoping to go back and do in your next term.
Right. Well, first and foremost, there was a proposal by the governor to reduce a lot of education funding. Her philosophy is we've had a decrease in population amongst, school-age children, and now we have to go ahead and trim some money from the school budgets, which caught all of the school districts off guard. They were still fighting, trying to recover from the pandemic. There's still a lot of mental health issues in schools. There's just a lot of stuff still going on. And what we managed to negotiate with the governor is we're going to keep things the way they are. We'll keep the foundation aid formula the way it is. So, everybody will still grow. We'll maintain the need to give everybody at least as much as they got the previous year, plus almost 3%. So we helped school districts out greatly. And from college level, we had a big win with TAP. That was a big push this year because for the last 25 or 27 years, TAP has been limited to families that make $80,000 a year or less. We finally broke through that. Now it's $125,000 a year or less. We also increased the minimum amount you could get in TAP to $1,000. We did a lot of things with education to sort of stabilize everything right now. And we told everybody that we're going to take a year and we're going to figure this out. We're going to have a new formula for foundation aid. And as far as what's happening with places like SUNY and CUNY, we'll have to figure out who can offer what programs. It's gotten to the point where not every school can offer all the different programs. So that was, I think that was a big success. Childcare had another big boost. So we have more people who are eligible to get subsidies for childcare. And that's important because when you're going to have all these jobs moving in here, you need people to fill them. And if, and a lot of them are going to be women. And if you don't have childcare and make it affordable, those women are going to stay home. So we worked on that. And, I think the areas that were not as successful were the consumer-directed programs, the direct care professionals that dealt with all the human resource stuff, whether it's the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, the Office of the Aging, all these people who work in those industries and take care of people. They've always had hard jobs. They've never got paid much. We've made an effort over the last 3 years to boost their salaries, and we've made a little bit of progress. This year, I think they got around 5%. We were hoping more in the 10 to 15% because they are paid so little. But we're going to hang in there, and we're going to continue, pushing for an increase next year. The other area that didn't get what I thought it really needed was the environment. One thing that I thought was a real failure is not passing some version of the Heat Act. And, the Heat Act would have ended the subsidy for the first 100 feet of the gas line to your home, so that people would have had to start considering alternatives like geothermal instead of just saying, yeah, hook me up to gas. The other thing, it would have ended the obligation to serve. So if you're in a neighborhood and 48 neighbors say, yeah, I'll go with geothermal, that's okay. But one neighbor says, no, I want gas. They have to put the gas infrastructure in at the same cost if all 49 or 50 of the neighbors did it. This doesn't make any sense. But we're going to go back, and I think at some point, and if it's before the end of this year or in next session, I think we'll pass that. So it's been a year of sort of ups and downs. I think it's more of a year of stability. There were no humongous wins. There were no big losses. We just sort of steady as you go, and everybody lives to fight another day, basically.
Yeah, I could see that. It was a kind of a year of not status quo, because there were a lot of changes, but it was a year of progress, but on a median pace, not like
Right.
a major breakneck pace. Balls were moved forward, just no new challenges were really brought to bear. And part of that is the late budget, and
Yes.
that has choked up a lot of the session, from lawmakers. And when so much time is spent on the budget, um, you come back and you only have a few, and this is a short session anyways, because it's an election
Yeah.
year. You only have a few weeks to get stuff done, and it's tough to get it done. So
It was really, I've got to say, I've been there 16 years. We've had a couple of really bad years. 2010 was a really bad year. We didn't pass the budget till August 11th. I don't know if you remember that. Now I remember when I lost in 2010, it was the Tea Party year. Remember that?
That's right. Yep.
And their headquarters for the state for the Tea Party was in Drivers Village, right across from my office.
That's right. The Tea Party, the precursor to the MAGAs. Yes.
Right.
How can we
right.
forget them? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a difficult year. And I'll tell you that the speakers had a harder and harder time. Our conference hasn't been quite as united as it was in the past. So people would tweet out from conference if somebody was against something that they wanted, and they'd name the person. So the speaker would held fewer and fewer conferences. So we didn't get to discuss as many things as we normally would. It was really, you'd get done and you're like, wait a minute, we haven't talked about any of this stuff yet. What are we supposed to do? And then, finally, as you said, we only had 5 weeks, I think it was, after the budget passed. And then everything was all done. Fortunately made it through with some housing stuff, but there were lots of things left on the table, and which means it's time to get ready to go back and fix those things.
Right. Well, but before you go back, you have to win your election. And that's why
right.
One of the reasons why we're talking, you're up for re-election, you are being challenged. But it's odd when you're running it every 2 years. You have a gubernatorial year you're running in and a presidential year, and they're different ways of running in those 2 different years. In the gubernatorial year, you got to worry about turnout. Presidential year, you don't have to really worry about turnout as much as you have to worry about making sure people stay on the line for you.
Right.
And this presidential year has been right? I mean,
yeah,
no, unprecedented. I've used that word unprecedented 100 times, I think, this year alone, and maybe even the last 2 weeks. We now have our assumed nominee, Kamala Harris, who, after President Biden decided not to run, just like 8 days ago at the time of taping this program. So how is that affecting your strategy for running? Is it affecting your strategy for running? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know how much it will affect my campaign. I mean, 2 years ago in the gubernatorial, the governor, I don't know that she won in my district. I mean, that was really tough. We did pretty, some of the other guys did pretty good in the district, but the governor didn't. I think with Kamala Harris running this year and making such a big dramatic change, it has actually energized people. And I love Joe Biden. I thought he did a great job. Is he struggling? Okay, maybe he's struggling a little bit. I think he could govern. I don't know if he could last a campaign, but I know he could govern. But this has really given us a shot of adrenaline. I think women are so much more engaged right now than they were before. I think the African American communities all of a sudden woken up a little bit. So I think in the long run, this is going to be a good thing for the Democratic Party. People are raising money. And I think the biggest problem, if they hadn't made that change, would have been a bit depressed voter turnout on the Democratic side. I think the MAGA people, they'll walk through glass in order to get to the polls and vote and everything. And our voters sometimes take a pass when they're not happy. And there were a lot of them that weren't thrilled. Let's just put it that way.
I think that's right. I mean, I'm a realist in this situation. I was worried about the switch because I was worried our party would fall apart, but it seems it's gone the opposite. We've united, which is amazing. And the energy is amazing to see. And you're right. President Biden has been an incredible president. He just probably wasn't able to continue being president and running at the same time. People don't realize how hard that is and how hard that would be for a person of his age to do that as well. He's still a great president. He's still out there doing stuff. But now that he's passed the torch to Kamala, she's free to campaign the way we need to campaign, and it's going to give us a puncher's chance. This is still a toss-up election, but the enthusiasm levels are now matched. We have, and I expect some of the highest turnout we've ever seen because of that. So, you're running again. What is your message to these presidential only voters or the first time voters? Why is it important to elect a Democrat to the assembly in your area and continue to have representation in the assembly?
Well, most of the things that will affect their lives and their families' life will happen at the state and local levels. I mean, education, which is always a big deal for all of the people in our district. My district is that bedroom community district. Lots of people in big neighborhoods, lots of kids. So education is a key. Economic development is a key. And we were on the upswing prior to Micron announcing they were coming. I mean, JMA Wireless, which was in my district also, now has a beautiful downtown campus, hiring a lot of people, ready to expand. A group of other businesses all moved downtown. You can see the energy down there. We're doing a $32 million upgrade of the tech garden. You can drive by there anytime. There's cranes all over the place. So you can see where things have picked up, and we're moving in the right direction. And I don't think you'd want to change horses while this is all happening. I'm not going to say it's my responsibility all this great stuff happened, because it's a responsibility of a lot of people. Center State CEO set a great vision, I think, back in the I don't know, 2006-7 timeframe, and knew what they wanted for new business instead of begging everybody. They focused on technology, and that's really what has ended up coming here to Central New York. I mean, the drone industry is booming here and has been now for about 5 or 6 years. So we're in good shape. It's important because when you have somebody in the majority, they can really help with projects that are going on. I mean, the Tech Garden, when they finally got a quote after they released the proposal for quotes, they had their estimates were $8 million too low. They needed more money. So they came to the state, and the Senate and the Assembly each gave $4 million to cover that shortfall. Same thing happened at CNS, the high school, Cicero North Syracuse, going to build a new pool. They came in $6 million short. You know, the Assembly went in and covered half of that cost. So it's really important to have somebody who's not ideological, not a one-issue person. You know, there will be times when I'll vote with the majority, and there will be times that I vote against them if I don't think that's something that helps Central New York. And I think that the hardest thing of running and winning in this district continuously is that you've got to make sure you pick your battles, you know what you're doing and what people really want and what they're really afraid of. And I think, you know, I've done, along with help from my staff and other people, I think we've done a pretty good job of figuring that out.
Well, we're getting kind of near the end of when I like to, you know, wrap up these podcasts. And we've had a great discussion, but here's your chance. This is my lazy question that I like to ask all the time is, what haven't we talked about? What is something that, you know, you want to leave the voters with that maybe we haven't discussed or you want to elaborate on a little bit more before we say goodbye today?
Well, let's talk again about the environment a little bit. I've got a new bill that I put in near the end of session that we'll be working very hard on next semester. It's called Bucks for Boilers. And what it is that, you know, anticipating the HEAT Act will pass, and we're eventually trying to electrify everything going forward at some point. What the other side has grabbed onto is saying this is just too expensive for households. You're punishing poor people, you know, blah, blah, blah. First time they ever talked about poor people, but, you know, we're punishing them. So this is kind of an answer to that. And what Bucks for Boilers does is it takes people in low and medium income brackets when the time comes, and they don't have to make a conversion until something happens. Either they have to replace their gas infrastructure or something else happens. And then all of a sudden, the state will pay to tighten up the envelope in their house. So if it's windows, doors, insulation, things like that, which makes a huge impact on reducing the requirement for energy in the first place. Secondly, it'll pay for induction stoves. It'll pay for the electric heaters, geothermal. So if a whole neighborhood wants geothermal, it'll go in using the temperature of the earth, which is steady at about 52 or 53 degrees all year long. It heats starting at that temperature and cools down to that temperature. Just having fluids move through the pipes in the geothermals. And the other thing I was talking about with heat pumps, it's really funny. You go to Alaska, the biggest technology used to heat things in Alaska are heat pumps. people here think it's too cold and they don't work, but they do work. And you can go downtown in Syracuse. There are some buildings now that are total electric and use heat pumps. So we're going to be making sure that anybody who wants to do their conversion can, and we're going to make sure it's not going to hurt them economically. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to. And the rest, I'm sure I'll find out as soon as we get back in January.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a lot of work to do in January. But first, I'll put your website and Facebook link in the show notes. People should go follow you and help on the campaign if they'd like. And thank you again, Al, for taking some time and coming on Zoom with Czarny.
Thank you, Dustin. Always great to talk to you.
Bye-bye. And that was my interview with Al Stirpe, assembly member of the 127th election district or assembly district. Great interview. Always a good talk. Please go follow him in the show notes. And he does have a campaign this year, so check him out. Next week, I'm actually traveling to the NYS winter or summer conference in Sleepy Hollow, New York, Tarrytown. But I will do a commissioner car on Tuesday. I'll probably do it in the afternoon before I get on the road. And we'll be talking about, I believe, the vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris. Weekly walk this weekend. I will be dropping my second look at Onondaga County, looking at the suburbs of Onondaga County. Check that out this weekend. Zoom with Czarny next week will be with Chris Ryan, who is our candidate for Senate District 50. He is, going to be our candidate, is our candidate, won a primary, and we'll be looking to see John Mannion in what has been one of the closest Senate races in the state over the last several cycles. So check out that interview. As always, you can go to dustinczarny.com and get information on all my election news and content updates. So check that out. Always free. I pay for it myself. I run it myself. I don't have any help on that. And I do it on my own time as part of my educational outreach to Onondaga County. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend.